The firefight had been going for 6 minutes when Sienna Graves made the worst tactical decision of her career. Or the best one, depending on who you asked. "Medic down!" someone screamed over the comm, except Sienna wasn't down. She was sprinting across open ground toward an enemy combatant who was very much still alive and very much bleeding out from a gut shot. "Graves! Return to position!" Commander Vexkar's voice crackled through her earpiece, all chittering clicks and mandible snaps that translated to pure fury. Sienna ignored him. The Vryn soldier, reptilian, young, scales already going pale with shock, tried to raise his weapon when he saw her coming. His hand shook. The gun fell. "Don't," Sienna said, dropping to her knees beside him. "I'm a medic. Stay still." His eyes were wide, pupils dilating. "You... human?" "Yeah. Lucky you." She ripped open his tactical vest, assessed the damage. Entry wound, lower abdomen. Exit wound. She rolled him slightly. Yeah, there it was. Through and through. Messy, but survivable if she moved fast. Behind her, the Korthax strike team was advancing in perfect formation. 6-limbed insectoid warriors moving like a military textbook come to life. They flowed around her position like water around a rock. A very stupid, very inconvenient rock. "Graves!" Vexkar again, closer now. "You abandoned tactical position for an enemy?" "He's bleeding out," Sienna said, jamming a coagulant injector into the wound. The Vryn hissed in pain. "Give me 2 minutes." 2 minutes we do not have. The perimeter is not secured." "Then secure it faster." She could hear Vexkar's mandibles grinding from 10 meters away. The sound insectoid species made when they were about to either attack something or file a formal complaint. Sometimes both. Energy bolts sizzled overhead. Someone was still shooting, though whether at the Korthax or at her specifically, Sienna couldn't tell, and didn't care. The Vryn soldier grabbed her wrist with surprising strength. "Why?" "Why what?" Sienna pulled out a field suture kit, started sealing the exit wound. "Why save me? I shot at you." "Yeah, well, you missed. Now hold still, or you'll make this worse." The perimeter firefight ended with the efficient brutality the Korthax were famous for. By the time Sienna had the Vryn stabilized and loaded onto a stretcher, Commander Vexakar was standing over her, all 6 limbs radiating disapproval. He was tall for a Korthax, nearly 7 feet of chitinous armor plating and compound eyes that reflected light in unsettling ways. His mandibles clicked in a pattern Sienna had learned meant barely contained rage. "This is why," he said slowly. "Humans should never have been given weapons." Sienna stood, wiping blood off her hands. "Good thing I'm a medic then. You endangered the entire squad, for an enemy combatant, who was actively trying to kill us 5 minutes ago. He wasn't trying very hard. His aim was terrible." Sienna gestured to the stretcher. "And now he's stable, disarmed, and a prisoner. You're welcome." Vexkar's compound eyes glittered. "I am not thanking you. I am documenting this incident for review." "Cool. Make sure you mention I saved his life. That part's important." The commander pulled out a recording device. Korthax loved their documentation and began speaking in rapid clicks. Formal report, official complaint, evidence of human emotional compromise in combat situations. Sienna had heard it all before. Around them, the other Korthax soldiers watched with expressions that ranged from confusion to contempt. To them, mercy was a liability. Compassion was weakness. You fought to win, and the enemy was just that. Enemy. The fact that Sienna had risked her life to save someone who'd been shooting at them made exactly 0 sense in their tactical framework. Which, Sienna thought as she followed the stretcher back to base, was their problem, not hers. The medical bay at Forward Base Talons smelled like antiseptic and recycled air. Sienna had spent enough time here that it felt more like home than her actual quarters. The Vryn soldier, unconscious now, stable, lay on a bed under restraints. Standard procedure for enemy combatants. His scales had regained some color. He'd live. Sienna was updating his chart when Commander Vexakar entered, followed by 2 other Korthax officers. "Your report is filed," Vexakar announced. Official documentation of combat medic Sienna Graves abandoning tactical position, endangering squad cohesion, and prioritizing enemy welfare over mission objectives. Sienna didn't look up from the chart. Did you mention that everyone made it back alive, including the prisoner who might have intelligence value? I mentioned that your emotional attachment to preserving enemy life represents a fundamental flaw in human military psychology. Emotional attachment. Right. Because wanting people to not die is super emotional. It is when those people are actively trying to kill your allies. Sienna finally looked at him. He wasn't trying to kill anyone when I got to him. He was trying not to bleed out. Big difference. One of the other Korthax officers, Sienna didn't know his name. They all looked the same to her. Clicked his mandibles. Humans are too merciful. Too weak. They care too much about the wrong things. Cool. Add saved a life to my resume. That'll look great. Vexcar's compound eyes narrowed. This is not a joke, Medic Graves. The Korthax High Command is reviewing human integration into combat operations. Incidents like this provide evidence that your species is unsuitable for warfare. The door opened. Commander Reeves, human, Sienna's actual CO, looking like he'd aged 10 years in the past 6 months, stepped in. Sienna, he said, voice flat. We need to talk. They talked in his office, which was just a repurposed storage room with a desk and too many reports stacked everywhere. You're making enemies, Reeves said, rubbing his temples. The Korthax have influence, a lot of influence. If they push for a formal inquiry into human emotional instability in combat, and they are pushing, you could get pulled from the field. All of us could. Good, Sienna said. Fieldwork sucks anyway. Sienna. What? It does. I signed up to save lives, not watch insectoid warriors judge me for actually doing my job. Reeves sighed. Your job is to support combat operations, not compromise them. I didn't compromise anything. I stabilized a wounded combatant who's now in custody. That's literally my job. Your job is to keep the strike team operational, not adopt enemy soldiers. I didn't adopt him. I stopped him from dying. There's a difference. Reeves looked at her for a long moment. The Korthax are filing for an inquiry. If it goes through, humans could be restricted to non-combat roles across the entire alliance. Medical support only. No field operations. Sienna felt something cold settle in her stomach. Because I saved one guy? Because you represent a pattern they don't understand. Humans who care too much. Who make decisions based on emotion instead of tactics. Who can't be trusted to prioritize mission over mercy. That's ridiculous. That's politics. Reeves stood. Just keep your head down. No more heroics. Let the Korthax do their job. Their job includes letting people die for no reason. Their job is winning wars. Maybe we should try that for a change. Sienna left his office feeling like she'd been punched. The Vryn soldier woke up 6 hours later. Sienna was there, checking his vitals, when his eyes opened. He jerked against the restraints, panic flooding his features. Easy, Sienna said. You're safe. You're in medical. Nobody's going to hurt you. He stared at her. You're the human. Yep. You saved me. Also, yep. Why? Sienna had been asked this question approximately 40 times in the past 6 hours, and her answer hadn't changed. Because you were dying, and I had the ability to stop that. Not complicated. But I am your enemy. You're a patient. That's different. The Vryn's eyes, pale yellow, slit pupils, searched her face like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then something broke. His expression crumbled. I'm not a rebel, he said quickly. I was conscripted. Forced to fight. The faction, they took my family. Said if I didn't join them, they'd... Slow down, Sienna said gently. What faction? Rogue elements. Vryn separatists. They're planning something. Something big. Sienna felt her pulse quicken. What kind of something? An attack. On a civilian station. I heard the commanders talking before the raid. 3 days from now. They're going to... The prisoner went pale, realizing he'd said too much. Which station? Sienna pressed. I don't know the name, but thousands of civilians. They don't care. They just want to make a statement. Sienna's mind raced. I need to report this. No one will believe me. I'm the enemy. Why would they? They'll believe me. She reported it to Reeves. He reported it to Command. Command brought in Vexcar. The Korthax commander listened to the intelligence, mandibles clicking thoughtfully, compound eyes unreadable. Then he said, Enemy lies, designed to manipulate the weak-minded human. This is exactly why your species cannot be trusted in combat operations. He's telling the truth, Sienna insisted. You want to believe he is, because you saved him, because you formed an emotional attachment. This is what we mean by compromised. Commander, if he's right, he is not right. He is an enemy combatant providing false intelligence to sow confusion. Standard tactical deception, which you fell for because humans are... The alarms started blaring. Red lights, klaxons, the universal sound of everything going wrong at once. Base is under attack, someone shouted over the comm. Multiple hostiles breaching perimeter. Rogue Vryn faction. They're here for the prisoner. Vexcar's mandibles froze mid-click. Sienna looked at him. Still think he was lying? The explosion hit the west wall at exactly 0300 hours, which meant Sienna was still in the medical bay, finishing paperwork, when the entire base went to hell. All personnel, this is Command. We are under attack. Rogue Vryn faction, multiple hostiles breaching perimeter. Evacuate to secondary positions. Sienna looked at the prisoner, still restrained to his bed, still recovering from surgery. Then she looked at the door. Then she hit the emergency lockdown. Heavy blast doors slammed down over the medical bay entrance. Magnetic seals engaged with a hiss. The room became a vault. Her comm exploded with Vexcar's voice. Graves, what are you doing? Securing my patient. The medical bay is tactically indefensible. Evacuate immediately. Sienna checked her sidearm, confirmed it was loaded, and started pulling supplies from the emergency lockers. Yeah, I'm not leaving my patient to die. Again, we've been over this. Graves, that is a direct order. Add it to your report. She cut the comm. The Vryn prisoner stared at her. You're staying? They're coming to kill me. Yeah, well, they're going to have to go through me first. Sienna pulled out a surgical bone saw, tested its weight. And I'm having a really bad day. The first breach attempt came 3 minutes later. Cutting torch on the blast door. Amateur hour. Sienna waited until she could see the metal glowing red hot, then opened fire through the weakened section. Screaming, the torch went quiet. Medical bay is holding, she said to no one in particular. The Vryn prisoner had gone very still. You're insane. Probably. The second breach was more creative. They tried the ventilation system. Sienna heard them crawling through the ducts, set up a proximity alert using an IV stand and some surgical tubing, and was waiting when the first attacker dropped through the ceiling vent. She hit him with a stun baton before his feet touched the ground. The second one got a face full of industrial-strength disinfectant. The third one she just shot. In the command center, the Korthax were watching the security feeds in absolute silence. Sienna Graves, the weak human, the emotionally compromised medic, was holding off a coordinated assault using nothing but medical equipment and apparently limitless spite. That should not be possible, Vexcar said, his mandibles clicking in patterns that suggested a Korthax on the edge of system failure. On screen, Sienna took down 2 more attackers using a combination of tactical shooting and what appeared to be a surgical bone saw. Sir, one of the Korthax officers said carefully, should we assist her? The medical bay is tactically indefensible, Vexcar repeated, but his voice lacked conviction. She appears to be defending it. That is not... Vexcar stopped. On screen, Sienna had just set up a tripwire using medical tubing and a tray of surgical implements. An attacker hit it, went down screaming. That is not how combat works. Perhaps, the officer said quietly. That is why it's working. More attackers breached the medical bay. 5 this time. Coordinated. Professional. Sienna's fighting style was nothing like Korthak's honor combat. No formal challenges, no ritual positioning, just brutal, practical efficiency. She threw a tray of scalpels like throwing stars, used an oxygen tank as an improvised battering ram, set a biohazard container on fire and rolled it toward the attackers like the world's most dangerous bowling ball. "Your species is terrifying," the Vryn prisoner said from his bed, watching her work. Sienna reloaded her sidearm, stepped over 3 unconscious attackers, and checked his IV line. "You have no idea." The attackers realized, too late, that they'd made a miscalculation. The human wasn't leaving, wasn't surrendering, wasn't backing down. And every second they spent trying to take the medical bay was a second they weren't achieving their objective. "Fall back," someone ordered over their comms. "The target is too well defended. Abort mission." Sienna heard them retreating through the vents, through the breached walls, through every entry point they'd made. She didn't lower her weapon until the base-wide alert changed from under attack to hostiles retreating. Then she sat down on a supply crate, exhausted, and went back to checking the prisoner's vitals. When Vexkar arrived with reinforcements 5 minutes later, he expected to find carnage. He found Sienna sitting calmly, covered in blood that wasn't hers. Taking the prisoner's pulse like this was a routine checkup. 8 unconscious attackers were scattered across the medical bay. 3 more were restrained with medical tubing. The room looked like a war zone. Sienna looked up. "Oh, good. Reinforcements. Can someone help me clean this up? I've got blood everywhere and it's a nightmare for sterilization." "Protocols." Vexikar stood in the doorway, all 6 limbs frozen. His soldiers fanned out behind him, securing the area, staring at the human medic who'd just held off a precision assault team using medical equipment and what appeared to be pure determination. Sienna stood slowly, wincing. "Before you start with the lecture about tactical decisions?" Vexkar lowered himself to one knee. The room went silent. Korthax didn't kneel. Ever. It was a gesture reserved for warriors who had proven themselves beyond any question, beyond any doubt, in combat that transcended normal understanding of courage. "I was wrong," Vexkar said, his voice quiet, mandibles clicking in a pattern Sienna had never heard before. "I called your mercy weakness. I mocked your compassion. I documented your actions as evidence of human emotional compromise." "Yeah, I remember," Sienna said carefully. "I see now," Vexkar continued, "that your mercy is not weakness, it is strength. You fight not because you hate what is in front of you, but because you love what is behind you. That is a warrior's truth I did not understand until now." Sienna blinked. "Cool. Can I get back to work now? My patient needs antibiotics." Vexkar stood, his compound eyes reflecting something that might have been respect. "The prisoner's information about the civilian station attack, it is real. The rogue faction attempted to silence him, which means we have 3 days to stop them." The Vryn prisoner, who'd been silent through all of this, suddenly sat up in bed. His scales had gone pale again. "Not 3 days," he said, voice shaking. Everyone turned to look at him. "The attack is tonight," he continued. "I lied about the timeline. I didn't trust you. I thought you'd just interrogate me and leave my information to rot in some database." Sienna approached his bed. "And now?" The prisoner looked at her, at the human who'd saved his life, then defended it against an entire assault team. "Now I'll tell you everything," he said. "The station, the attack vectors, the timing, everything. Because if you'll fight this hard to save one enemy soldier," he swallowed, "maybe you'll fight that hard to save 40,000 civilians." Vexkar's mandibles clicked rapidly, the Korthax equivalent of a string of very creative profanity. "Tonight," he repeated. "The attack is tonight." "How long?" Sienna asked. The prisoner checked the chronometer on the wall. 6 hours. Maybe less. Silence. Then Vexikar turned to his soldiers. "Prepare strike team, full combat load. We leave in 20 minutes. He looked at Sienna. "You're coming," he said. It wasn't a question. "Obviously. The prisoner will guide us remotely, but you're the only one he trusts. If the intelligence is wrong... It's not wrong, Sienna said. I'd bet my life on it. You may have to, Vexcar said. 40,000 civilians, 6 hours, and a rogue faction that just demonstrated they're willing to assault a military base to protect their operation. Sienna grabbed her medical pack, checked her sidearm, and turned to the prisoner. I'm going to save some people, she said. Try not to die while I'm gone. I've put way too much work into keeping you alive. The prisoner almost smiled. I'll do my best. As they left the medical bay, Vexacar walked beside her. Human, he said quietly. Yeah? When this is over, I am withdrawing my report and filing a new one. What kind of new one? The kind, Vexacar said, that recommends your entire species for command positions. Sienna looked at him. Because I defended a medical bay? Because you showed me that mercy and strength are not opposites. They are the same thing, viewed from different angles. That is something my species has spent 10,000 cycles failing to understand. Took you long enough. Yes, Vexacar agreed. It did. They had 6 hours to save 40,000 people. It would have to be enough. Kessex, the prisoner finally had a name, provided everything. Coordinates, attack vectors, timing down to the minute, personnel, bomb placements, escape routes the rogue faction would use. Orbital Station Meridian, he said, his voice shaking as he traced routes on the holographic display. Population: 40,000, mostly civilian. Families, research personnel. The faction doesn't care. They want a statement. What kind of statement? Vexacar asked. The kind written in blood. Kessex highlighted 6 points on the station's infrastructure. Suicide bombers, disguised as maintenance workers, simultaneous detonations across life support, power distribution, and structural supports. The station won't just lose atmosphere, it'll tear itself apart. Sienna felt something cold settle in her chest. When? Kessex checked the chronometer. 5 hours, 43 minutes. Evacuation? Someone suggested. 40,000 civilians, Vexacar said flatly. Minimum evacuation time, 8 hours. We don't have 8 hours. Then we go in, Sienna said. Everyone turned to look at her. Strike team, she continued. Surgical precision. We identify the bombers, neutralize them before they detonate. You are a medic, Vexacar said carefully. Not a tactical. I'm the only one Kessex trusts. Sienna crossed her arms. He'll guide us through the station, identify targets, but only if I'm there. So either I come, or your surgical strike happens blind. Kessex nodded from his medical bed. She saved my life. Twice. I trust her. The rest of you. He looked at the Korthax soldiers with barely concealed fear. No offense, but your species doesn't exactly inspire confidence in prisoners. Vexacar's mandibles clicked, a sound that might have been amusement. The human makes a compelling argument. I usually do, Sienna said. Very well. You will accompany the strike team, but you follow my orders. Understood? Sure, as long as your orders don't include letting people die unnecessarily. I am learning, Vexacar said, dryly, that your definition of unnecessary is quite broad. They infiltrated Orbital Station Meridian disguised as an emergency medical response team. Sienna's idea. Medical personnel could access most areas without raising suspicion. And if they were questioned, well, Sienna actually was a medic. The best cover was one that was mostly true. This is Red Team, Vexacar said over the encrypted comm. We are in position. Blue Team ready, another Korthax officer reported. Sienna adjusted her medical coat, checked the concealed weapon under it. Green Team ready. Kessex, you there? I'm here. His voice crackled through her earpiece. First target is Maintenance Junction 12. Male Vrin, mid-30s, carrying a toolbox. The bomb is inside the toolbox. Copy that. Sienna started walking, her stride confident, professional. Just another medic making rounds. She found him exactly where Kessex said he'd be. A Vrin in maintenance coveralls, looking nervous, clutching a toolbox like his life depended on it. Which, technically, it did. Sir? Sienna approached with her best concerned medic expression. I need you to come with me. He turned, eyes widening. What? Why? Contamination alert in this sector. Standard protocol. We need to run decontamination procedures on anyone who's been in the area. I haven't been exposed to anything. That's what they all say. Sienna smiled. Come on. 5 minutes. Quick scan. You'll be back to work before you know it. He hesitated. Sienna's hand moved slightly toward her concealed weapon. Okay, he said finally, following her. 2 Korthak soldiers materialized from a service corridor, grabbed him, and had him restrained before he could scream. Bomb secured, Vexkar reported. Target 1 neutralized. Target 2 is in the observation deck, Keswick said. Female Vryn, pretending to be a tourist. Sienna found her taking pictures of the planet below, a shoulder bag at her side. Ma'am, there's been a medical emergency near this section. We're evacuating everyone for safety checks. The woman looked at her. What kind of emergency? Possible atmospheric contamination. Nothing to worry about, just precautionary. I feel fine. That's great. Let's keep it that way. This way, please. Target 2, neutralized. Target 3, a maintenance worker near the power distribution center. Target 4, a food service worker in the civilian quarters. Sienna talked them all down. Medical authority, fake emergencies, confident lies delivered with a smile. Your species has a talent for deception, Vexkar observed over the comm after Target 4 was secured. We call it social skills, Sienna replied. You should try them. I do not think my mandibles are structured for smiling. That's probably for the best. Target 5 was different. Keswick's voice went tight over the comm. Next one is the cell leader. Vryn male, early 40s, maintenance junction 39. He's smart, paranoid. He won't fall. For the same trick. Then we improvise, Sienna said. Graves, Vexkar warned. The cell leader may be armed with a dead man's switch. If his heart stops, the remaining bombs could detonate automatically. So we don't stop his heart. How do you propose? I'm working on it. They found him in Maintenance Junction 39, exactly where Keswick said he'd be. Older Vryn, scales scarred, eyes constantly moving, and his hand was in his pocket. Dead man's trigger. Vexkar's team surrounded the junction, weapons ready. The cell leader saw them, smiled coldly, and pulled out the trigger, a small device with a single button his thumb rested on. If I let go, he said calmly, or if my heart stops, every remaining bomb detonates. 40,000 dead. So unless you want that blood on your hands, I suggest you back away. Vexkar's mandibles clicked. If we kill him, the bombs detonate. If we don't, he detonates them manually. There is no tactical solution. There's always a solution, Sienna said. She stepped forward. Graves, no. She ignored Vexkar, ignored the Korthak soldiers' hissing warnings, ignored Keswick screaming at her over the comm to stop. Stay back, the cell leader shouted, his thumb tensing on the trigger. I'll do it. I know you will, Sienna said, hands up, walking slowly. But before you do, I need you to understand something. I don't need to understand anything. The guy who gave us your location, Keswick's. You know him? The cell leader's eyes narrowed. The deserter. The conscript, Sienna corrected. Who you threatened, who you forced to fight. I saved his life yesterday. Want to know why? I don't care why. Because he's a person, just like the 40,000 civilians on this station. Just like the wounded soldiers I've treated on both sides of this conflict. Just like you. She kept walking. I said stay back. You're going to kill yourself, Sienna continued, her voice calm, conversational. And 40,000 people who've never done anything to you. People with families, with lives, with futures. They're part of the system that destroyed my world. Maybe, probably, the Alliance isn't perfect. Sienna was close now, too close, within arm's reach. But killing them won't fix anything. It'll just make you a murderer of innocents. Is that what you want to be? The cell leader wavered. His thumb shifted slightly on the trigger. Sienna's hand moved, smooth, practiced, fast, and jabbed a preloaded injector into his neck. He gasped, eyes wide, collapsing forward. Sienna caught him, lowered him to the ground gently. The trigger didn't activate. "Bombs?" Vexcar demanded. "Secure," Kessex reported. "No detonations. How did you—" "Fast-acting sedative," Sienna said, checking the cell leader's pulse. "Calculated dose to render him unconscious while maintaining heart function. The dead man's switch requires either release of the button or cardiac arrest. He's still alive, heart still beating, hand still holding the trigger, just unconscious." Vexacar stared at her. "You calculated that dosage in your head." "I'm a medic. It's literally my job." "That was the most reckless." "It worked, didn't it?" The remaining bombs were defused within 20 minutes. 40,000 civilians went about their day completely unaware they'd been seconds from death. Sienna sat down on a cargo crate in the maintenance junction and put her head in her hands. "You are shaking," Vexcar observed. "Yeah, adrenaline crash. Give me a minute." "You saved 40,000 lives." "I know. You did so by walking directly into lethal danger with nothing but words and a sedative." "Yeah, that was stupid. Don't recommend it." Vexcar was quiet for a moment. Then, "I am filing a new report." Sienna looked up. "Another one?" "This one recommends that humans be reassigned from support roles to tactical command positions, because you see solutions where we see only death. And that perspective, we need that." Sienna smiled weakly. "Just don't expect me to do the walking into danger thing regularly. That took years off my life." "Noted." As they evacuated the station, Sienna collapsed. Exhaustion, stress, the weight of 40,000 lives she'd almost failed to save. Vexcar caught her before she hit the ground, carried her to the medical shuttle with a gentleness that surprised everyone watching. "The human fights like a warrior," he said quietly, "but cares like a healer. That combination, that is what we've been missing." 3 weeks later, Sienna was back at Forward Base Talon doing routine medical work and pretending her life hadn't been completely upended. Sutures, vaccinations, treating a Korthax soldier's compound fracture. Normal. Boring. Exactly what she wanted. Except the entire galaxy was talking about her. Vexcar's report on the Meridian incident had gone viral, not in the social media sense, but in the military intelligence bureaucratic sense, which was somehow worse. Every species in the Alliance had an opinion. The Korthax military leadership was divided. Some called humans valuable tactical assets. Others called them unpredictable liabilities who couldn't be trusted to follow orders. The 40,000 civilians of Orbital Station Meridian had made their opinion very clear. The humans saved them, and anyone who had a problem with that could take it up with the grateful survivors. Which is why Sienna was currently standing in front of a formal military tribunal, wondering if her career was about to end spectacularly. Combat Medic Sienna Graves, the tribunal chair, a high-ranking Korthax with more decorations than seemed physically possible, announced, "You have been summoned to review your conduct during recent operations." Sienna braced herself. Here it came. Reprimand for breaking formation. Charges for insubordination. Maybe even discharge. "Your actions during the border raid, the base assault, and the Meridian operation have been thoroughly documented and analyzed." "Yes, sir." "Your repeated disregard for tactical positioning, your prioritization of enemy welfare over mission objectives, and your tendency to improvise against direct orders have all been noted." "Yes, sir." Sienna kept her face neutral. "Therefore, it is the judgment of this tribunal that you are hereby promoted to Tactical Medical Liaison and assigned to train mixed species units in human combat doctrine." Sienna blinked. "I'm sorry, what?" "Your actions demonstrated that human mercy is not weakness, but tactical advantage. We wish to replicate this across Alliance forces." "You want to teach Korthax warriors to—" Sienna struggled for words. "Care about enemy casualties?" "We want to teach them to think like humans," the tribunal chair said. "To see beyond honor combat. To win through means we do not currently understand. You will develop training protocols, beginning immediately." Sienna stared. This is either the best promotion or the worst punishment I've ever received. It is both, the chair said, dismissed. Her first training session was exactly as disastrous as expected. 12 Korthax soldiers sat in a semicircle, all chitinous armor and clicking mandibles, staring at her like she was about to teach them alchemy. Okay, Sienna said, standing in front of a tactical hologram. Scenario: you're in combat. Enemy combatant is wounded, no longer a threat. What do? Confirm the kill, a soldier said immediately. Wrong. Secure the area and move to next objective, another suggested. Also wrong. The soldiers exchanged confused glances, mandibles clicking in patterns that suggested deep frustration. You stabilize them, Sienna said. But why? One soldier asked genuinely. They are already defeated. They are enemy. Why expend resources on enemy survival? Because they have information. Because their survival can prevent future conflicts. Because it's the right thing to do. Define right thing. Sienna looked at Vexkar, who was observing from the back of the room. He clicked his mandibles, and what she'd learned was Korthak's amusement. This is going to take a while, she muttered. But slowly, painfully slowly, they started to understand. Not the emotional component. That remained alien to them. But the tactical advantage of mercy, the strategic value of compassion, the long-term benefits of keeping enemies alive. Saved enemies become allies, Vexkar explained during one session. And Sienna realized he'd internalized the lesson better than she'd taught it. Survivors remember mercy. The human builds trust where we build fear. And trust is a resource we have never properly weaponized. Please don't call empathy a weapon, Sienna said. But it is, Vexkar insisted. The most effective one we have encountered. By week 3, her students were actually starting to get it. They'd never feel it the way humans did. But they could do it. Act on it. Make the choice to save, instead of kill. And that, Sienna supposed, was progress. The final conversation happened in the medical bay, late cycle, when most of the base was asleep. Vexkar found her treating a Korthax soldier's plasma burn, her movements automatic, practiced. I withdrew my initial report, he said without preamble. The one calling you emotionally compromised. I know, Sienna replied, not looking up. I read it. I also submitted a new one, recommending humans for command positions across all Alliance forces. Also read that one. Vexkar settled into a crouch, the Korthax equivalent of sitting casually. His mandibles clicked softly. I have a question. That day on the border when you saved Kesix, did you know he had information? Did you calculate that saving him would prevent future attacks? Sienna paused, her hands still on the bandage she was wrapping. No, she said finally. I just didn't want him to die. That's what I thought. Vexakar's mandibles clicked in a pattern she'd learned meant deep contemplation. My species has spent 10,000 cycles perfecting the art of warfare. We understand strategy, tactics, honor in combat. Every warrior knows how to kill efficiently. But we never understood this, that mercy is not the opposite of strength. It is its own form of power. Sienna finished with the bandage, finally looked at him. You're learning. Your species has much to teach us. Vexkar stood, gave a small bow, the Korthax gesture of respect. I mocked your mercy, called it weakness. Then I watched you fight for a life that meant nothing to you, and I understood. Humans don't fight to kill. You fight to save. That makes you the most dangerous warriors in the galaxy. Sienna watched him leave, his footsteps clicking against the metal floor. Most dangerous warriors in the galaxy, she muttered to herself. Great. That'll look fantastic on my tombstone. But she was smiling. Because somewhere in the galaxy, 40,000 people were alive, because one stubborn human refused to let someone die. Because Kesix was recovering well and had been granted asylum. Because 12 Korthax soldiers were learning that strength and mercy weren't opposites. And that, she thought, was worth every sarcastic comment from every alien commander she'd ever meet. even if they still didn't understand why humans were the way they were. She wasn't sure she understood it either, but it worked.